My name is Marcus Krzastek, and I am the President of International at VaynerMedia. I actually joined VaynerMedia when it first started in 2009. I've known Gary pretty much my entire life. Upon graduating from college, applying for jobs in finance, started working part-time 3 days a week at Vayner. 2 months in, I was headed to a final interview at a finance job down in Richmond, Virginia. Gary and AJ grabbed me. They're like, hey, don't accept anything with them. We'd love to potentially offer you to come on full-time here. Kind of like willing to kind of like take a leap. And it was definitely very, very serendipitous that I did. But I led some of our earliest business, so Campbell's Soup, Green Mountain Coffee, Zappos, and some of their sub-brands like 6PM. On the side, Facebook and Twitter were starting to introduce their analytics and media tools, which, you know, when we first started, they didn't have. Myself, as well as a few others, we started to kind of build like a subgroup that would essentially help all of our different clients. And so that became kind of like the birthplace of our dedicated analytics and media team. Gary came to me, he's like, hey, would you be interested in just doing this full time? Kind of launched analytics and media, as well as a third team, which was called Core Product, which was essentially responsible for product and platform strategy. So essentially like, how do we actually deliver all of our services to our clients? Gary came to me, he's like, hey, I'm building a team around myself. VaynerMedia was becoming bigger and bigger. I became Gary's chief of staff, becoming the person who could help him take on different projects across the organization, at first within VaynerMedia, and then as we essentially built out VaynerX, getting to spend a lot of time with our teammates in kind of EMEA and APAC just through that role alone, which was one of the reasons why I was really excited to come back to it. Gary came to me with an opportunity to run the Sasha Group, which is VaynerMedia's sister agency in the US. At that time, it was kind of a good moment for me to jump. So dove in with that team. It's an incredible team. We had a really great year last year. Around the summer of this year, Gary came to me again and said, hey, I'm looking at reorganizing a little bit of how we think about VaynerMedia globally. Would you be interested in moving to London and working with the APAC and EMEA teams? That brings me to where I am today. Yeah, I would say the most valuable lesson I've learned from Gary is trust your instincts, trust your pattern recognition. Him dive in on things when he sees an opportunity, and it doesn't mean that he's always right. Sometimes he's a little too early, sometimes the opportunity doesn't fully come to fruition, but more times than not, he's able to identify something early, and that's something I've really tried to focus on. Some of the places in which I've misstepped the most, I almost always felt in my gut it was coming. I almost always felt like there was something I should be doing, but I always, logically talked myself out of it. And over the years now, I think I've become much more comfortable, especially from watching Gary. Over time, you start seeing the same things over and over again. Identify that, move quickly is sort of how you're able to kind of move at the speed you need to be in this sort of culture. Him dive in on things when he sees an opportunity, and it doesn't mean that he's always right. Sometimes he's a little too early, sometimes the opportunity doesn't fully come to fruition, but more times than not, he's able to identify something early, and that's something I've really tried to focus on. Some of the places in which I've misstepped the most, I almost always felt in my gut it was coming. I almost always felt like there was something I should be doing, but I always, logically talked myself out of it. And over the years now, I think I've become much more comfortable, especially from watching Gary. Over time, you start seeing the same things over and over again. Identify that, move quickly is sort of how you're able to kind of move at the speed you need to be in this sort of culture. The reason why I'm still here is kind of the ethos of, in the long term, doing the right thing is always the right thing. Even if it doesn't help your short-term bottom line, even if it's something that makes your life more difficult, it's always better to do right by the client, to do right by the employees of the company. And the fact that that's not just something that you do because it's the right thing, but it's the right thing for the business on the whole. We are incentivized here to actually operate not like business robots and actually operate from a perspective of human beings. As far as what advice I give folks, I get this a lot. I really think like explore the studio space, meaning like there are just so many incredibly smart people across the entire company. And in order for anyone, I think, across VaynerMedia to do their job really well, I think eventually you have to be able to understand all of the different pieces that go into developing our work. Of course, like the immediate first thing, and the first thing I tell everyone is get super good at what you need to do. There's no substitute for being very good at your immediate craft. Once you really start landing that, you're in media, spend time with creative. If you're in creative, spend time with client partnerships. You know how to interact with people better, you know how to get things done. You highly recommend anyone be able to take full advantage of that. The most dangerous thing that can happen in this industry is something is true a year and a half ago and you decide that that is the way that it always is, and it's actually no longer the right thing for our clients today. Yeah, in terms of what I'm excited about with this new role, there's a really exciting challenge. Has to be structurally different based on region, because there's so many different nuances from budget, from a cultural perspective, so many different nuances in terms of just how we staff and structure our teams and build communication lines between all the different folks working on these projects. And so that's a really fun project to dive into, and I'm really looking forward to kind of over the course of time figuring those things out, and hopefully be able to set up really like a thriving ecosystem that ultimately can become more plugged into kind of this overall global VaynerMedia structure that we've been developing. So it's going to be a really fun one to dig into.